Hey guys, Steven here, Fanatic Perspective. Happy Father's Day. What's going on, everybody out there? Today is our Sunday service, especially for the fathers out there. We're going to have a little bit more of a nostalgic look as we go over my brothers from Texas Sports Unfiltered, Open Gym, Patrick and Matt. You guys can check out Open Gym on every weekday, 4 to 6 p.m. on the TSU Unfiltered platform, YouTube channel, app, the whole bit. I guest host there from time to time. But Patrick and Matt, my friends over there, put together a top 25 Longhorn plays of the last 25 years list. I think it was really, really cool. I want to look over those particular plays, reminisce, and have a little bit of fun with you guys over the next hour, if that's okay. So again, happy Father's Day to all the real ones out there. Just tapping in with y'all real quick before you go about your day. I know it's a rainy day up here in the DFW area, but if you have some sunshine outside and you're out there with your families and whatnot, appreciate you guys. Appreciate my father, appreciate my father-in-law. Just really grateful for what fathers bring. We need more fathers in the home, quite frankly. So anyway, hit that like button. It's free to show love. We are trying to get to 15,000 subscribers by August 30th, Texas, Ohio State. Really appreciate if you guys could help me out along the way, help me out along the journey. It will take a Herculean effort to get there, but I believe in us, especially as we get closer to kickoff for this season that we're all so excited about. Year two in the SEC, Arch Manning era, the whole bit, right? So anyway, we're gonna look back. I'm gonna go get right to it, right? And you guys popping in here in the chat. What's good? What's good? Clint Barrow said he's been here since 2018. Man, we've been around the block. I appreciate you. Hook 'em, hook 'em, hook 'em. Trust me, it's reminiscing just here on the channel is a special thing and a special place. So Sports Talk Jay said, I think we can guess what number one is. I don't think there's any doubt there what number one is. But we will talk through it, right? We will talk through it. Even love to know personal anecdotes, stories, right? Where were you during some of these plays? Do you remember some of these plays? Were some of these plays, for those of you who may be a little bit younger, was that the introduction to your fandom supporting Texas football? Let me know here in the comments. Let me know here in the chat. Be fun to discuss. So, as in to me, at least the first, I'd say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to 6 are in an interesting order, just in terms of how Patrick and Matt have it listed here. And by the way, on Monday, please check out their Monday show because they're going to be ranking these plays in order. This is just the list, right? Just the list they put out of what are the 25 plays. Now we got to rank them. So on Monday's show, 4 to 6 on the TSU app, they're going to rank them 1 through 25. And I can't wait to see their inputs and their insights on that. Now, as we look at this list, I look at the VY 4th and 5 play to, that's probably the most important, significant number one play in the history of Texas football. Let's just, now if somebody wants to pull up some James Street plays from the Natty run in the 60s, respectfully, I think VY beats that. No. And I don't know if too many people here would argue just where we are in society right now. No, but I think it was just that big. Also, so far removed, right, from where Texas was in glory, winning natties, the whole bit, that long stretch over so many different coaching staffs, so many different eras of Texas football, and that early part of the 2000s where we were really, really good, but it just seemed like we couldn't get past OU. It just seemed like we couldn't get over that hump. So that 4th and 5 play there, just absolutely enormous. Vandaliza, 18. Happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. Sunday ties, donations. We appreciate it, Vandaliza. Thank you so much. The support you offer seemingly every video. I'm very, very grateful. I'm very, 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 very grateful. In all seriousness, Clint Barros, 4th and 5 is arguably the most significant play in college football history. I honestly don't see that play ever getting topped. Now we're biased here, but I think that's in the conversation, to your point. Reason being is what USC was at that time. And I think that's part of your thinking here as well, Clint, right? USC at that time was being compared, and we've talked about it a little bit on this channel, but let's revisit it right now. ESPN ran a series where they matched up USC against all of the all-time great teams. And every single one, I think outside of the only team that they think they had them maybe even with or maybe even losing to was 2001 Miami. I think everybody else they had USC beating, right? Like that was before we even got to play them. So that already tells you the headspace the national media was in at that time, even though we were also coming in undefeated, had just dropped 70 points on somebody in the conference championship game. We were all, just as dominant as USC was during that run. It's just that they had been on a multi-year run, right? They were co-natty champs in 03 with LSU. Then they won outright 04. They demolished that OU team that had a Heisman Trophy winner in Jason White, that had one of the best freshmen we've ever seen, Adrian Peterson, just absolutely destroyed them, right? And then they come back in 05 with Reggie Bush now reaching Super Saiyan level. Matt Leinert's a Heisman Trophy winner. Like that USC team, 05 was thought to be just literally unstoppable. So when it goes to Vince Young, what he did on 4th down, 4th in season, right? USC just needs to make one stop, and he runs into the back of the end zone. And you remember the call from Keith Jackson, and it screams college football. It screams what we love about this sport, why we're fans. Um, you know, I'm not even going to say David versus Goliath, because I think Texas was also a Goliath, but just understanding what that meant for VY's legacy, what that did for Texas, the documentaries that have come from that, the mileage that we've gotten out of that play the last 20 years, and also the confidence. Like I remember going into that play, and I know I think they had tried to do like a pass either David Thomas or Lima Sweet before that, and we were just like, I remember having no doubt in my mind Vince Young was going to figure it out, whether it was with his legs or by pass, as well as converting the 2-point conversion too, right? Like he also ran that in. So like just remembering, like, no doubt in my mind he's going to figure this out on this play. Like that confidence was special. So no, I mean it's up there. I think it's up there with the 19, the Ohio State Miami pass interference play that determined the national championship, right? If anybody remembers that, Chris Gamble and those guys in 02. I think it's up there with the Jameis Winston, uh, Kelvin Benjamin connection that they beat Auburn with. That was one of those great all-time plays. Going way back, 1984 national championship, Nebraska versus Miami. Nebraska decides to go for 2 and doesn't get it and they didn't really need to. If they had just kicked the extra point and then gotten a tie, they would have been outright national champs. But Tom Osborne, those guys were trying to, I think Turner Gill was the quarterback. Like that's one of those plays. Just craziness, right? The Doug Flutie Hail Mary is to Phelan, Gerard Phelan, one of the greatest plays of all time. 4th and 5 is right up there with all of those plays, right? Right up there with all of those plays. Definitely, to me, the most significant play in Texas football history. I think I would have Justin Tucker's the walk-off field goal at Texas A&M in College Station with knowing that we didn't know when we would ever see each other again. Was the last game of the series, right? What was it? Mike, who was it over there that was their coach? Mike Sherman, right? Mike Sherman over there on the sideline, and Ryan Tannehill, like uh, pretty an A&M team that when you look at the people they had on the field versus who we had at the time, especially Case McCoy, the I think the Case McCoy run is on here as well, that 25-yard scramble. But anyway, just going into A&M and that when you think about why they're little brother, it's that game, and it comes down to that field goal. And one of the things I remember when I was watching this game in Maryland at the time was Mac Brown's face and him having that just confident laugh, that confident smile before the timeouts, knowing that he had a kicker that was nails, knowing that he had a kicker that was not even afraid of the moment or not afraid of the moment, but embraced the moment, and just went out there and nailed, what was that, a 45-yard field goal, like just without a doubt, right? And that kind of led to the career that Justin Tucker had. When you think about him becoming such a great kicker, obviously the recent headlines have not been great for him, but in terms of that moment, what it meant to the programs, as we said goodbye to A&M as they left the Big 12 and headed over to the SEC, that's an iconic play, right? An iconic walk-off field goal at College Station. Y'all let me know in the comments if you have that one at number 2 or if you have others, because I think if we go, some people may say, hey, would it be prisoner of the moment? Would it be recency bias if we boosted the Quinn Ewers, Matthew Golden 4th and 13 play up? Because it was, I mean, it was 4th and season. That was even the level of difficulty was probably even harder than the Vince Young one in terms of the scenario. All out blitz too. They sent the house. Quinn stands in there, makes the proper checks, finds Matthew Golden wide open, right? And the iconic, it just has the basket, right, and makes that catch for us to move, to ultimately get up out of there. So 4th and 13, and I think 4th and 13 will age really well for Quinn and his legacy. I really, really do. I think, people right now are still caught up on the draft stuff and us not winning a national championship with them, blah, blah, blah. But I think overall, when you look at where this program was when he took over and where it was when he left, that's a signature play for Quinn. I really do think that's a signature play. Also, as we go through this, I know I'm kind of taking my time through these first ones, but we'll kind of bounce around as we cycle through some of them. But let me know if there's a play that's missing, right? Let me know if there's a play here that you're like, oh no, I think there's, because there's a couple that I've thought of as I've sat with this, and I think Patrick and Matt did a great job. Again, go check out their show on Monday when they do it, right? Because I think it's going to be really, really dope. Being able to kind of debate the plays, being able to rank them, see where certain ones fall. I think that will be very, very fun to watch live. So make sure you guys go show them some love over there. But yeah, there's a couple that I'm thinking where I'm like, that's at least in the conversation, so to speak, in the conversation, right? Let's see. So Clint said, I was at first of all, what's up, Pooh? Are you stationed over there in Korea, Pooh? or are you just over there living internationally on business, or are you stationed over there, like what's over there in Korea? Camp Humphreys. I know Camp Humphreys over there. Or let me know where you're tapping in from. But I appreciate you showing love from across the globe. It means a lot. It means a lot. Let's see. Clint said, I was at the ASU game, probably the most exciting moment I've seen live since the Tyrone Swoops touchdown versus Notre Dame. That Swoops play, by the way, is on the list on another page that we'll get to. Sean Gregerson, what's up, man? Fourth down stop. I agree with you. I agree with you. As a matter of fact, they have that play. Where is it? Yeah, the Lindell White stop. Yep, that one's here. Michael Huff and them boys. I mean, we needed that. That was, we don't have any of the last drive heroics without the defense coming through. The Shipley kick return versus OU is on here. That's on the next page. Yep. The Shipley kick return's on there. So these are let me actually just show y'all the whole 25, right? So this is the first page. Again, they have not ranked these yet. This is just how it's listed so far. So you have what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So those are the first 10, blah, blah, blah. You know, you got this group here, right? Then the next page, Sims, Sergio Kendall, when T Sweat hit the Heisman. There's this Tyrone Swoops, the TD play, right? And then they had some honorable mentions in there. So the Case McCoy, I would probably have the Case McCoy scramble in the top 25. The Quinn Ewers moonball at Bama. That one was that might make my top 25. The thing is, if it makes your top 25, what are you taking out? Right? What play do you take out? Because 25 plays is not a lot when you start thinking about it, especially a program like Texas. In terms of just oh my God plays, the Vince Young pump fake for the 80-yard touchdown. I was at a party. I was at a it was around prom time or something, but I was at a party and I remember they had a TV off to the side because I believe that game, if I'm not mistaken, was like on TBS at the time. Back when Big 12 used to show games like on TBS, it was on at night. It was like, I'm pretty sure it was like on TBS, and he hit that pump fake and took off. Like, that was one of the most remarkable plays I'd ever seen a football player make, let alone a quarterback at the time. I remember at the time literally screaming, especially because we were down by like 1,000,000 points in that game. And we just got off to a horrible start. It was something that we routinely did, by the way, in the mid 2000s versus Oklahoma State. For some reason, we consistently would fall behind. There was other games where Jamal Charles went crazy, where we were also behind versus Oklahoma State. I think Chris Sims had like a 4 or 5 touchdown game at Oklahoma State where we were down early, and Cedric Benson got busy. Like, there's different years where we, for whatever reason, we would just be down like by a bunch, and VY would just do something nuts. But the Kansas one the year before, 4th and 18. I don't think we talk about that one enough. The 4th and 18 versus Kansas, the Fighting Manginos at the time, how different history would be if we had lost that game. for many reasons, especially at that time. We really, our issue was the big games in the games versus OU. It wasn't necessarily ever dropping games or really losing games to teams like that. But the panic that would have set in at that time, and where we were, I mean, we were good and we ended up winning. I mean, we only lost one game at 04, but I still think the fan base around Mac and everything was, we knew we had a good football team, but it was like we were still kind of mentally fragile a little bit. And when Vince started doing stuff like that, right? And you know, that whole thing transpired and he just glided. It was the most effortless run, even more so than some of the USC runs. That 4th and 18 was insane. And if you haven't seen that play from the 2004 season, please go look that up. It's an insane play. That's the type of stuff that started to lead to the reputation that Vince had, right? Because that 4th and 18 play kind of led to the pump fake 80-yard play, where oh no, this is just who he is, right? Like this is a guy that can just take off. Another play that's iconic. I wouldn't have it on the top 25 list, but the year before, I think it was 03 versus Nebraska, the zone read that Vince took to the house, where for me that play was iconic because I had never seen somebody that big run that fast, like a gazelle run away from people with that type of stride. That was the first time I'd ever seen a quarterback at 6'5" move like that. And I think that was like his redshirt freshman year when he took that zone read keeper to the house versus Nebraska. That was a game I believe in Austin. But just some crazy, crazy stuff that he used to do. I mean, that's why he's goated. That's why Vince is goated, bro. Because at the end of the day, he was doing things at the time that we had never seen. We'd seen great mobile quarterbacks. Michael Vick was just a few years before that. McNabb at Syracuse was different. I mean, we had seen crazy mobile quarterback. Let's not get it twisted. Vince was not the first like that. But in terms of a 6'5" guy running for 1,000 yards in a season, that could throw the ball a mile, right? Like it was, it's what led to the RG3s and the Cam Newtons and all of the how all the way up to Jaden Daniels, right? In terms of that type of player, that electric one man band type of guy that you have to change your whole defense because you don't know what the hell is about to happen, especially when Texas really started playing more out of a spread. So all the Vince Young plays here are absolutely nuts. The Bijan run versus West Virginia, man, till this day, I think that brother scored. I don't. I was at that game too, and I remember going crazy because I'm like, he didn't step out of bounds. I don't remember him step like. I know somebody showed the replay and the zoom in, and I don't know that play because that stiff arm he gave to some. That was one of the best Bijan stiff arms I've ever seen. That was like the Billy Bowman one in the OU game when he sent him into the shadow realm. That was a crazy stiff arm. Gerard Tetley said the thing about Vince was he was so large and his legs were so long, he'd step through or bounce off tacklers. Yep, 100%. Guys struggle with just the angles they would take with Vince. Or trying to hang on. He was even though he was, slender, he was strong. He had wiry wiry strength, right? It was a different type of strength than like even like a Cam Newton or a Tebow who were built like tanks, right? Those guys are 240, 250. Vince was 220 at that time, but country strong in that way. Just able to just, and honestly, that type of strength running through a tackle, running through leg tackles, right? You really had to wrap up with him. Now, he wasn't going to be a guy where Vince wasn't really the guy you're going to run like quarterback power, things like that, right? In between the tackles, stuff like that. I mean, he was the guy that was going to glide to the perimeter and cut back in the lateral movement that he had. I mean, if you look at the run his freshman year versus OU, we were down by a lot. OU was whooping our ass, and Vince Young gets in the game, and it's freak fest time. Like it's just like, whoa, what the frick is going on here, right? Like dudes are the play where he just jukes his way to the complete other side of the field and almost scores. And you can tell that the angles and everything is just what's going on here, right? So he just introduced a completely different type of athlete to college football, quite frankly. Special. What's that Vince McMahon gif where he has the tear in his eye during the Netflix documentary? He was special. He was special. Hook 'em, Ed B. Hook 'em, hook 'em, hook 'em. We just reminiscing right now. I also want to give a shout out to the Roy Williams, that end around play. Roy Williams in that 03 Cotton Bowl versus LSU, one of the most dominant bowl game performances by a Longhorn I've ever seen. Roy Williams 03 Cotton Bowl, go look it up. Went crazy in that game. Unguardable, best athlete on the field. They couldn't do Nathan with him. I remember that brother that got drafted. What was his name on the corner on LSU? He got drafted. Was it Corey something? He was really good. I remember that matchup. LSU. He ended up getting drafted to the Giants. I thought his name was Corey something. Corey Webster. Corey Webster. Who ended up winning the Super Bowl, I think. Yeah. He won a couple Super Bowls. But I remember they matched up against each other in that bowl game. Corey Webster was a great corner. And Roy Williams went crazy. That was the Roy Williams that was like, man, you're capable of doing whatever you want on the football field. It was insane. Like, and I think that's why I still got Roy as my top Texas receiver. If you go look at the numbers, it's still insane what he did, considering the offense he played in. He did not get to play in the spread, true like modern day offense. We were still running that janky ass pro style stuff at the time with Bubble Screen King Greg Davis, before Greg Davis woke up under Vince Young, after Roy had already left, after Sloan had already left, after BJ had already left, and said maybe we should open this thing up a little bit more and feature our receivers, which leads to guys like Quan Cosby and Jordan Shipley eating, because they got to play in a real modern, like they got to play in a way better offense than their predecessors. This is a quick sidebar, but this is why, in my opinion, we had all those problems with OU in the early parts of the 2000s. Now, some of it was just OU's defense was on a whole another, like the Roy Williams, they had Rocky and then back in the day, like There was some of those OU defenses, Tommy Harris, they were great. They were great. Some of those OU defenses, like when you look at the personnel they had at all three levels, they were great. But for us to have all of the problems we had, there were schematic issues as well, because we also had some great defenses, and there were some years where we held those OU offenses. But for the most part, OU was able to have offensive success because they had, may he rest in peace, may he rest in peace, the pirate over there as their offensive coordinator, Leach, right? And so Mike Leach was way more forward thinking and modern with having, 11 personnel sets, 10 personnel sets, throwing the ball to the backs out of the backfield like Quentin Griffin, like all those guys, those when you compare the fact that they had Leach and we had Greg Davis, we got to factor that into when we think about why we were having problems. Like if you think about it this way, give Mike Leach, Vince, Roy, Chris Sims, Roy, Cedric, BJ, and all of them, and flip the coaches. Keep the personnel same, flip the coaches into schemes, and tell me we wouldn't have popped off more. Some of those games we were only scoring 3 points or 0 points, and you watch the games back and it's like, what are we running? what, what are we even? We're not even. These boys don't even have a chance. What kind of offense is this? So I do think the fact that Roy Williams, I think he's like over 3,000 receiving yards, even despite all of that, is insane. But that game against LSU, I think that was also Chris Sims' last football game. He got to go out on top with that bowl game victory. That was an incredible individual performance by number 4. And it's why that number meant something. Like, when Lyman Sweet took that number over, it was like, hey, you need to be a problem like Roy was a problem, right? And then later on, Dan Buckner took that number. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Those were fun times. Fun times. The most, one of the Ethan Burke stop on Amari Daniels this past year. It's also why I'm so high on Ethan Burke this year, hopefully taking that same leap that Baron Sorrell took this past year. Yeah, Vince Young in the Michigan Rose Bowl has become underrated at this point. That's become underrated at this point. Yep, the Vince Young to Lyman Sweet throw in 05 because he did it with his arm, right? Game on the line, on the road, tough atmosphere. Ohio State with those backers, Bobby Carpenter, AJ Hawk, Marcus Freeman was the next year, who's now the head coach at Notre Dame. But I think Freeman was a freshman at that point. But Marcus Freeman was out there. AJ Hawk, I think Laurinaitis. I don't even think Laurinaitis was up yet, but I know Hawk and Carpenter were. But Ohio State's defense that particular night was probably the best. I mean, Vince popped a couple big runs, but if y'all remember, they held Vince's legs in check. Ohio State did. That was a game Vince had to navigate. He threw a couple picks. That their defense was really, really good. Really, really good. And just watching him still have that clutch factor and lead us despite some of the troubles we had. And then that last drive, that dropping the bucket throw to the left side of the end zone to Lyman Sweet, who's fading back and catches that. Another iconic Texas play. And that was when we knew when they won that game, I knew at that point we're going to beat OU. Finally, I knew that, and we're going to go make a run and not just win this it's beyond winning the conference. Now we're national title contenders. because that Ohio State team went to the Natty the following year, right? And they Troy Smith ended up winning the Heisman. That was back when they were still rotating quarterbacks. Ohio State was at that point with, if anybody remembers the name, Justin Zwick. Justin Zwick was still there, rotating with Troy Smith. But eventually they, got Troy and Ted Ginn and all those guys. But that Ohio State defense, they guarded Vince better than anybody else that year, even USC. USC didn't hold Vince's legs nearly in check the way Ohio State did. I agree with this because that was a crazy play, Clint. If we had beaten Washington, that's the thing. Some of these plays, I know some of these plays are on losses, but they're still iconic. But man, good thing they let Zwick play. Yeah, some of y'all remember that. Yeah, it was like, man, put 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 Zwick back in the game. If y'all don't mind, put him back in the game. Yeah, but the Washington play for sure. Another underrated one. I definitely remember that Chance Mock BJ Johnson one versus Tech. That was a fun game. That was a fun game. That whole game was fun. Um, the Jamal Charles run. I mean, shit. You can even think about the Jamal Charles tackle on AJ Hawk in the Ohio State game. He was a true freshman that year, and he commanded touches on a team that had Ramonce Taylor, on a team that had Selvin Young, right? Like at the time, those guys were top tier backs. And Jamal Charles, as a freshman, comes in out of Lake Charles and just was brought a different element of a runner uh, to the team. And that 80-yard run was needed because at the time when that 80-yard run occurred, it was earlier in the game and it was off of a point where we had not beaten OU in a minute. And yes, we came to the game very confident, heavily favored. But remember, Vince's last loss was the 12-0 game to OU the year before. Vince Young never lost another football game after that. But the last loss was the year before versus 04. And at that point in the game, we started a little shaky. It was still the mental roadblock. Even though OU wasn't, they still had Adrian, but like they weren't, like we weren't about to lose to Rhett Bomar. No disrespect. Or Thompson or Paul Thompson and those guys. Right? So it's like when that play occurred and Jamal Charles, spun off dude and took it to the house, that blew the whole game open. That really blew that whole game open. That was a really, really, that was an all-time play. Did Adrian play at all in that game? And he was injured. He was injured. He was banged up a lot. That at that point. Let me see if that's a good question though. I do remember him dressing, but this is where we gotta fact check stuff because the memory can get hazy. Let's see. I'm going to the game logs. 05. Yeah, he played. He only had 3 carries. He had 3 carries for 10 yards. He was banged up. The week before, he had 8 carries for 51 yards. So he played, but he was He wasn't the same. Yeah, so when that Jamal Charles run happened, we were we were up 7-6, and it was like the end of the first quarter. So it was early in the game. But I just remember like we, where that OU team was in '05, coming off of all the stuff they had lost from the national championship team. It was like we were supposed to blow these guys out. Why are they hanging around? Like they were actually playing well in that first quarter. Um and then we blew it open, right? Billy Pittman has those deep touchdown passes, but that's when Vince Young started throwing moon balls in the second and third quarter, and then really by the fourth quarter, it's Rod, guys like Rod Wright taking stuff to the house and just going crazy. Um, yeah, but Adrian Peterson only had 3 carries for 10 yards in that game. Um, but that was the game that Jamal Charles. Well, yeah, when I think of that game, I think of Jamal Charles and I think of Billy Pittman for sure. Oh, a game that I'm going to bring up that's really sad. It's really sad, but hey, if the swoops play, the swoops plays on here because it was a game winner, and at that point it was a season opener. There was, the Texas is back clip, the whole thing. But the Foreman play is on here, and I think we lose this game. He went crazy in this game though. Even the Chris Warren one too. Somebody brought that one up earlier too. Chris Warren went crazy against Tech. But the play that I think about that could have been on here had we, it's kind of similar to the what H Post mentioned with the Colt McCoy, Malcolm Williams 91-yard touchdown play, is Gerard Hurd's run against Cal. Nick Rose, God bless him. God, Nicky Rose. But that play, that Gerard Hurd, oh, we won that game? Okay. Then I must be thinking about the Chris Warren one. But the Gerard Hurd run, that was a legendary play. It just sucks that, man, how that went down. Donations, Quentin. Donations. I appreciate it, brother. Happy Sunday. Happy Father's Day out there. Um, Quentin, let me know what how you feel about this list here. But yeah, Gerard Hurd. There's another universe where he's another Jaden Daniels RG3 type for us. Oof. Sorry to, but we just reminiscing right now. Tex-Mex Horns 94. Been watching since the Boss's Ranch days. Besides the obvious 4th and 5, the 4th and 13 is the biggest play of the Sark era. I agree. I was sick to my stomach since the second half on. No, that's going to be Quinn's signature play. That's, definitely one of the signature plays from the Sark era. And thank you for this comment. Thank you for this comment. This is cool just to look back. Shout out to Boss's Ranch. Ooh. Are you talking about the one where he extended all the way out? Yep. That wasn't that that was Sam Ellinger's second start, right? Because he had his first start was like San Jose State or something like that, and then we went to USC the following week. I'm pretty sure that was Sam Ellinger's second start. Man. Ant Hill sack in the Bama game to force. Yep. Rob Falter, thank you for the super chat. Let's see what you got to say here. Anything less than a national championship this season is unacceptable. We are winning it this year. He said, so Rob, thank you for the chat. I really appreciate the donation to the channel. It means a lot. Natty or bust is your energy. Can I, if we win the SEC, I got it, because it also depends on the context of the season, right? Like, let's say, yeah, let's say, because I don't know. Let me be clear. If there's some teams out there that emerge and there's all of a sudden a 2019 LSU or a 2020 Bama out there, there's just some really good teams out there that really emerge that we're just not seeing right now. And we're good. We know we're good, but we come up short. In that context, I'm not as disappointed. I would be disappointed if we have a window to win. It's clear to win. Let's say Ohio State is really down. Let's say the SEC is, these teams look similar to what they looked last year. If you want to go that route and say that the SEC is weak or whatever, I'm just saying hypothetically. But the context of the competition in the sport, right? Let's say that Georgia doesn't rebound well with Gunnar Stockton, and they're not the same defensively without Jalen Walker and Michael Williams and Malachi Starks, and they have a few growing pains with the new guys. Then I would expect us to take a leap forward, right? And because at that point it's like, well, who else is out there? But every year, like last year, I wouldn't have had Notre Dame being in the national championship game. Think about it this way too, right? Notre Dame ended up in the national championship game. They started 4 new offensive linemen in that A&M game. Remember they started some babies in that A&M game to kick off. And how many people would have had them in the national championship game after losing to Northern Illinois the following week? But they scaled quickly to the point where in the context of the season, you weren't surprised that they were good because we were so like some of these things we're going to learn the data as it happens. It's not an excuse for Texas. Texas should be good. We know what our goal is. Like I've said before, we didn't spend all this money on these defensive tackles. We didn't spend this money on reloading this roster on the new specialists to just keep coming up short and whatnot. But I do think a conference title matters. I do think that people would feel differently even now if we had won the SEC last year. I really do. But when you come up empty hardware wise, I think expectations feel differently. For me, you're the favorite to win the conference. Arch or not, you're the favorite to win the conference. And, when you think about the other, because our episode on Friday, right, we talked about who are the legitimate contenders to win the SEC. I personally had it at Texas, Georgia, Bama, LSU. But if you look at those teams, only one of them has an incumbent returning starter at quarterback, which is LSU. Bama starting a new quarterback, Georgia starting a new quarterback, Texas starting a new quarterback. We all in the same boat. It's just who feels the best about their new quarterback. Well, if we go on proof of concept, I think Texas feels the best about Arch because proof of concept was Mississippi State and Monroe and the little bit he played last year. Limited snaps, 13 touchdowns overall, rushing and passing. Ty Simpson's been around the longest, or not the longest, but he's been around. And then Gunner started their last game, right? Their bowl game loss to Notre Dame, and obviously played in the second half. So, however they feel about that, I think their fan base is mixed on Gunner, quite frankly. So, I look at like the context of how the season is going matters. There's going to be a team like the year that Florida State went 13-0. How many people had them getting to that point at that time? Right. Now, obviously, they lost their quarterback, and we know how that went down. They didn't make the playoffs, blah blah blah. But when they became those contenders and rose to that point of playing that level of football week in week out, that at that point in the season or during that season, we were like, yeah, this is one of the best teams watching it. But beforehand, I mean, people thought Florida State would be good. They didn't think they would be that good, right? So we got to factor that in too. Just be mindful of that. Just because we're number one in a lot of polls or we're number one in the SC, blah blah blah, does not mean that one of these other teams. Just be mindful of that. Now the expectations should be high, in my opinion, and I think Sark will tell you that, right? I mean, so I'm not necessarily completely disagreeing. I just think that depending on how the other teams pan out, you may feel differently about this, Rob, down the road. I guess one question, Rob, I have for you is, do you view 2024 as a disappointment? How do you view 2024? Because I think I may view that as slightly disappointing, but not a failure. It wasn't a failure of the season, but I think it's disappointing that we didn't win the SEC when I felt like we should have. I think it's disappointing how we lost to Ohio State, even though Ohio State was a better team in my opinion. Just had one more piece than us. But I'm also like, when I look back at 2024, it's like 7-1 in the SEC. You went 13-3 overall. You beat your rivals. You went belt to ass on every single one of your rivals last year. So how do you weight the season? Here's the thing with Notre Dame, though. They're putting a lot on Carr. Carr's a freshman, a redshirt freshman. That's a big, and yes, that team, the rest of that team is loaded. Notre Dame's team's good, especially defensively. Even with some of the guys they sent to the league, but their schedule is also a little bit harder this year, in my opinion, than it was last year. Like that's the other thing too. We may look at like right now. I'm looking at look at Notre Dame's schedule last year. I think they have Florida State on the schedule. A lot of these teams have Florida State on the schedule, like Florida did, right? And before the season, even with DJ Uyunglele and all the transfer people they brought in, we didn't know they were fraudulent until that game in Ireland. Before them boys got exposed by Georgia Tech, I mean, I think people thought that Florida State were at least ACC contenders. I'm not saying you thought they were going to run it back the way that they did the year before, but no one had Florida State. No one had Florida State looking that bad. No one had Florida State what winning just the FCS game, getting blown out, getting smoked by everybody they were playing, just not to the point where they weren't competitive. Nobody had that. Nobody had that. Come on. What's up, John? Happy Father's Day, man. Happy Father's Day. 17-7 is not BTA. It is when you don't have an offensive touchdown. Thank you, H Post. Exactly. It is. Your 7 was a gifted pick 6, brother. Your offense. How many? Marcel Reed and them boys have 0 points against the Texas defense. Gave up nada. That's belt to ass, my friend. They gave up nada. So knock it off. Y'all should have kicked your field goal, brother. Should have kicked your field goal when you had the chance early in that game. That's my 2 cents there. I would not talk to somebody if they had shut me out like that. That's just me personally. But hey, we all teach his own. Y'all are funny. Alan says it's gonna be 37-7 this year. Alan said, I agree. Aggies will win 37-7. John funny. Penn State's roster is very good this year. Now I do think they will miss Abdul Carter, but that roster is very good. They've upgraded the receiver talent with those 2 stellar running backs they have in Allen and Singleton. Can Drew Aller live up to the hype? That's the big question. That's the big question. Because to me, Drew Aller is the reason why they didn't play in the national championship. That's he held them back in the Notre Dame game. Let's be honest. Drew Aller held them back in that game. It was fright night out there for him. That's another area where I will protect Quinn Ewers. I've never seen Quinn in a game like that look like Drew Aller did. No. No. He looked like he didn't even want the rock. That's different. We've lost. We've gotten beat with Quinn. We lost to Ohio State, but like I never thought, oh, he looks scared. Never had that. No. That's different. And I know the NFL likes the physical tools and all these type of things. But yeah, it was that same look that Jackson Dart had on his face versus Florida. Great job, D Money can't get money. It was the same look. Y'all know that look. And look, some people, I don't know. The way I look at things, I can't get over that. Me personally. That's why I don't. I Drew Aller's really going to have to show me a lot to go and win 3 playoff games or whatever it's going to take for them to get over what we saw them do. Unless they just get these stellar matchups like the SMU and Boise State games, they were just able to physically overpower them just with their roster. But the moment they played a Notre Dame where the rosters are even, which is where you will ultimately get to in the playoffs, we've already seen that. All of us will eventually meet our match. How do you respond, right? Where where your roster's not, you're not able to just bully the other person and bludgeon them over 4 quarters because you have way more people than they do and way more depth. That's how Penn State got by SMU, and that's how they got by Boise. But the moment they ran into their equal in Notre Dame, it came down to the quarterback because they basically played each other to a stalemate. Would y'all agree? That game, if you look at the rosters, they played each other to a stalemate. It came down to Drew Aller, and he didn't want no part of it. But hey, y'all want to trust that man this year? I always root for kids to bounce back. Maybe he'll show a little bit more toughness this time around. But it was not in his DNA. Because it really came down to that. Them rosters played each other to a stalemate in that game, period. Anyway, any other plays y'all want to? I know we started just talking about the season and everything, but This has been a fun little exercise. Tap in tomorrow on Texas Sports Unfiltered, Open Gym, Patrick Davis, and my man Matt, and they're going to go through and rank all of these plays, the top 25 plays, right? Um, but, as you guys look through this, and this is a list that Patrick put out on Twitter. I retweeted it as well. So if you're not following on socials, go check that out. Very fun discussion to look back, right? Quarter of a way through this century already. How do we view some of these plays? And it's funny how they hit on different eras of Texas football, depending on where we were. Yeah, the Quinda-worthy Moonball, they had that in the honorable mention category. I think for me, um, I may have that one in my top. Maybe even over the Bug Thompson interception. That's just me personally. Who knows? They did have the Rod Wright scoot and score that I mentioned earlier from that same OU game. Um, so yeah, D Money can't get money. Um, yeah, the Whittington fumble that was showed to all the athletic um, department. That was in the TCU game, right? If I'm not mistaken, I believe that Whittington play was in the TCU game, but that play got shown to everybody in the that was a Texas athlete of not to give up on a play, how to hustle, the effort, the whole thing. Insane. Insane play. And for it to be him, right? Considering what he went through at this program, the whole bit. For it to be him, to do that, yeah, that was different. D Money with the donations here to support. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It means a lot. Thank you. Is your score is so and thank you for the inputs you always have, man. You're a real one. So I really, really appreciate it. Are y'all talking about the Ohio State score for the opener? Because yes, I've said this before too, Tex-Mex. They will downplay. They will definitely downplay the win. Um, I'm gonna swerve on you guys though. I think that's gonna be. I think that first game. I've talked about it a little bit on here, but I'll bring it up again. Um, I think that first game, and this is just the feeling I have based upon how the rosters are right now, and in the game being in August. I think it's going to be a low scoring defensive battle. I think Texas, if I'm Sark, I think you're going to go into that game saying they're starting a redshirt freshman quarterback first start with a coordinator and a play caller who's also in his first go at this. Regardless of Ryan Day's influence, because I think Ryan Day will have some influence there, but I'm I really think it's going to be yeah, I have this I'm in the 20 to 13, 21-14 area of that type of game. Because I think Sark and them are going to be very think, consider we may not know who our real rotations are receiver wise until after what I consider Q2, which is that stretch through September where we play our G5 teams. I think the offense you will see that Texas has by Florida will be different than the offense you'll see in terms of efficiency versus Ohio State. Um, Also because that Ohio State game, that's Arch's first game on the road as a starter. So we're coming in with new offensive line. I mean, kind of think about the game I referenced earlier, right? Notre Dame versus A&M. Notre Dame ended up winning that game on the road. Tough. They won by 10, right? But I think that game was a lower scoring game. They really relied on their defense early, right? That was with Riley Leonard, but that was Riley Leonard's first game, still getting used to his teammates. First time under live bullets, even though he was a veteran. I expect more so that type of game for Texas Ohio State. I expect that type of game. Especially when you think about our pass rush. I do think that Sark will have some stuff to try to get up early, right? To try to get a lead and then just sit on your pass rush. And hopefully we have a better ability to run the football and secure drives and not have to go crazy, right? And get out of there. Because Ohio State's defense, especially the secondary, those linebackers, they're very good. That's going to be one of the best groups we're going to see. I mean, between Downs, who's now seen Sark a third time, he's getting older, wiser, more experienced. Hancock, Sonny Styles, those guys, those corners are still there. And, that's going to be Parker Livingstone's first action real rap, right? That's probably Ryan Wingo's first time he's the wide receiver one in a situation like. So we have to have some grace and temper that a little bit, in my opinion. Not saying we're not going to go in there and move the football. It's not what I'm saying. But in terms of just thinking we're going to go in there and put up 40 points, even 30. Guys, we averaged as a team last season, we only averaged like 33 points a game, period. Now, I think that number will go up this year. I think Arch is ultimately a better fit. And I think as we go and get more into the season, think about this, right? And I hope this is not the case. But Cade Klubnik last year and those Clemson receivers, TJ Moore, Wesco, Antonio Williams is already a veteran. But like that Clemson offense looked like dog shit against Georgia in the first game. Let's just be honest. They couldn't move the ball. Georgia's defense was very veteran. I'm not saying that hear me out though. Cade Klubnik and that Clemson offense by the end of the year look like what? Same group. Same kids. This stuff takes time. But if you give it time, on the back end, they're going to be humming. And on the back end of that Clemson team, that's why everybody's so high on Klubnik and those guys this season. But that Klubnik that we saw, and Maffa was hurt too. We didn't even get a healthy Phil Maffa. And Clemson moved the ball on us like crazy, right? With TJ Moore, Antonio Williams, Wesco. Then they had the tight end, Brady. So he's tight end's not in the league now. But my point is, those guys needed some seasoning, that group. So I'm not expecting Texas to come out and look like a juggernaut game one offensively. I expect the Texas defense to stand on business game one against a young quarterback. I expect That's another reason why it's important to also improve your special teams, because you need to be able to win in a multitude of ways. Yes, I think Texas will be more equipped to, if they get into any type of shootout, they should be able to score. They should be able to have more explosive plays, blah, blah, blah. But against teams like this, you also want to be able to lean on your defense, lean on your special teams, and just be smart and play kind of old school SEC football and say, hey, we're just not going to turn the ball over. We're going to be efficient. We will capitalize on our opportunities when they present themselves, but we're not going to put the ball in harm's way against guys like that. We're not. We don't mind punting. We don't mind playing the field position battle now that we have the people to do those things. We really couldn't play field position last year. It was that was a challenge. That was a challenge. So exactly, Alan. They're going to need time to get their legs underneath them. Now the good thing is, the really good thing is, after the Ohio State game, they have 3 games, the whole month to get ready for conference play. So those 3 games, that's when you want to see, all right, who's earning their spot. So by the time we go to Florida, like I said, we humming. By the time we get to Florida, the the offense at that point should definitely have their legs underneath them. To me, that's the expectation. But this Ohio State game, the defense you have, we should be able, even and I'm not there's no slouch, especially when you think about the Ohio State receivers. Jeremiah Smith, Mylan Graham, Carnell Tate, Brandon Ennis, Max Clare at tight end. They have weapons, but they got new running back, new quarterback. The defense is the defense is going to stand on business for the first game. Even if I wouldn't be surprised if we get into the fourth quarter of that game and it's like 13-6, and people are like, "What the hell's going on?" Nah, it's going to. I really think it's going to lean defensively to start the season. I don't think people are just going to be coming out. If Ohio State want to come out there and start trying to get aggressive, then that only opens up opportunities for Colin Simmons. That only opens up opportunities for Trey Moore and all these guys. That's what they want. They want to hunt. They want a new QB. Okay, you want to test this? You want to come out there and throw the ball like your CJ Stroud game one? If Ohio State does that, then you tip your cap. If they come out game one, first game with a new starter, and they throwing the ball like Cade Klubnik was throwing the ball last year, that'd be crazy. Then we'd be looking at our defense sideways, like, well, are we as good as we thought we were? But the way I see this game playing out, I think both defenses are going to come out trying to stand on business. And I think Ohio State, if they're smart, which they are, I don't think that they're going to put Julian Sayin in a place where he's just uncomfortable and turn the ball over and all these things. I think the play calling will be indicative of one trying to protect their quarterback, but also getting him into a rhythm. And y'all know what that looks like. And for them, I think Julian Sayin and that offense is going to look different when they get into Big Ten play. We're probably the best overall defense that they will see all season. We're definitely going to be the best pass rush that they'll see all season. So this is great for them. But early game like that, first go with 2 teams that are more based on their defenses right now, veteran defenses, I think the defense is going to go out there and stand on business and say, we'll take on the heavy load. Right. H-Post those were all low-scoring games. So I don't think that the Ohio State Texas game is going to be like 42-37. That would shock me. That would shock. It'd be like, did Caleb Downs and Colin Simmons die? Like, what happened? Did they get kicked out? That the game should think about even the bowl game we just played in the Cotton Bowl. It was crunch time. It was what 21-14. It was 14-14. It was 21-14. It was a low scoring game. And that's with veteran quarterbacks and offenses that were late in the season. We were stopping each other for big chunks of that game, I should say. There wasn't this barrage of scoring going on. Texas and Bama, great point. It wasn't a barrage of it was 16-13 in the 2023. Points were hard to come by. Yeah, no, and I see where you're going too. It could be something. I don't know. Do we know what the over under is yet? Because I remember the Bama game, it was like 46 points. I think the Michigan game was around 46 points in terms of over under. I I don't know. I'm inclined to take the under right now. I could see Texas going in there and winning 23-17, 17-10, something like that. This will also be the game to this point, Alan. This will also be the game to see if Arch can be a game manager, even when he doesn't necessarily want to be. But because, hey, as a quarterback, I know my defense, I'm playing with a hot defense right now. I don't need to make the superhero throw. It's okay if I check the ball down right now. It's okay if I just manage. Is John on crack? What's going on here? John, is everything okay? Did you get hacked? Blink twice if you're okay. I'm worried about you. All right. Well, I'm getting ready to wrap up here. Um, Now we've got nothing but time to talk about Texas Ohio State, but like I said, it's been fun. Top 25 plays, top 25 Longhorn plays the last 25 years. Hit us in the comments. Make sure you hit up TSU. Shout out to Open Gym, Pat and Matt. 4 to 6 weekdays over there on the app. It's been fun talking about it. I can't wait to see what they put out on Monday as they rank these plays and have a discussion. I know I'll be tuned in. So will you guys. And while you're here, remember, it's free to show love. Hit that like button. Our goal is to get to 15,000 subscribers by August 30th. Texas versus Ohio State, like we were just discussing. It would be dope if you would subscribe. I really appreciate it. Helps us grow this platform. We have a lot of work to do, a lot of growth to have, but I know we can get there with your help and your support. Appreciate y'all. Remember, horns always up. Hook 'em.